welcome.
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, The Young Pope, Season 1, Episode 8. Tim, Alonso, things happening this time, but things that aren't necessarily germane to the overall.
The Pope is on vacation.
The Pope is on vacation. Like,
He's grieving.
The bigger issue here is, like, the show doesn't seem to have, and this isn't a bad thing, but, you know, structurally, it's not like they're building towards a thing,
right.
You know, it's just sort of like this happens and that happens and this and that, and
what are the first 8 episodes of The Young Pope about?
He's about a new pope and shit's crazy, you know. And
what does he do? Oh my God, so much.
So it's things.
He drops a baby. And other things.
All right, so we start out, we're at the summer retreat. He and Mary are both still grieving the death of
Andrew de Saulnier.
Andrew, and so then he decides that, well, first he says he doesn't want to travel to Africa when he is asked to by the Vatican PR lady. But then at yet another underattended St. Basilica Mass, he decides, no, hey, what the hell, I'm going to Africa, and we're going tonight.
Yeah.
So the Pope press has to scramble and go, and we come to find out that the woman who is running all of these hospitals and sort of villages of mercy, or what are they called? Village of Goodness or something?
Village of Goodness, yeah.
Village of Goodness.
Sister Antonia.
Yeah, she's awful.
Yeah.
Which
is an oft-bandied about rumor about Mother Teresa.
Oh yeah, no, totally. If you read like Christopher Hitchens' book about her,
right?
Not
not nearly as like purposefully malicious and petty as Sister
No,
Antonia
and certainly not like a sexual blackmail or anything, but definitely was, you know, going around the world, you know, raising money for these hospitals in India that she was then pouring into convents and fighting abortion, even in countries like India where the population was crazily out of control. And at her hospital was like not giving people pain medication and, you know, running.
Suffering brings you closer to God.
Exactly, yeah, and running needles under cold water. I mean, just like horror stories. So yeah, so that's she's clearly meant to be the surrogate there for that. And yeah, so what? Where are we? What's happening?
Well, yeah, I mean, and other stuff happens in this episode. He has an extended scene with one of his favorite writer, Elmore Cohen,
yes, played by Andre Gregory.
Who they talk about sex and what that means to the church, and how sex is used as the motor of the world, but it's a motor that keeps breaking down, which I think is a really interesting metaphor.
Totally, yeah, and one of the sort of better justifications for celibacy I've ever heard.
Sure, yeah, Lenny visits Spencer.
Spencer
says he doesn't believe in God. Lenny says, you're never going to be Pope. Show me the other path. I can't show you the other path, the adventures. Very cryptic, but interesting.
And Spencer acknowledges the idea of a sort of, you know, ecclesiastical midlife crisis where priests are shaken in their faith in God and then return to it, and exactly the second calling. Yeah, like that was fascinating. I thought.
And Lenny's obsessed with people's callings. He asked everyone that he meets, how, you know, what was your calling like? How were you called? Because I guess he doesn't have that moment, and he wants to live that a little bit through other people.
I'm reminded. Did you ever read Elmer Gantry?
No.
That was a high school requirement book. That, you know, it's set in a Protestant world, but it's the same thing where like he has to have this call from God, and there's a whole thing in the book where he basically makes it up. Yeah. You know, and he just kind of crafts it for himself, and then tells the story in this very, you know, compelling way, and it just kind of reminds me of this similar sort of faker.
Is he seeing Juana Fernandez? The girl who died at 18 of leukemia and healed the sick with stories of Madonna?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because that was
the second episode we see
her
pop up.
She pops up at the end of episode 7. It's like, what? Huh? What? And so, you know, again, this will be a good binging show because you can get right into what the hell that was about. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously we're meant to. That's being given special prominence because it being in more than one episode. I don't know if it's the kind of thing where it's going to be similar to what, Victor Sanchez, is that his name? The guy who kills himself?
Angelo Sanchez.
Angelo Sanchez, where someone who is legitimately devout gets cock-blocked by this guy who isn't. Yeah. You know, so if it turns out that she's the real goods and he prevents her canonization because of his own doubts, that could be a thing that's happening here.
And other women that he sees appear in his garden are the what I assume to be the abortion protesters.
Oh yeah, the Femin. Yeah, the Femin. Yeah, Femin. That's a real thing.
Oh, the Femin is an organization.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Google Ignorance them. They're fascinating. They're like next level code pink because they're naked all the time.
Mm-hmm. So he does go to Africa.
Yes.
We get there eventually. He has an interesting exchange, or rather, he doesn't have an interesting exchange on the plane when the reporters want him to come out and talk to them and ask questions, and he's in there praying. And one of Jennifer, the reporter, asks through the door about the Kurtwell case and the rumor of blackmail, and that's why the Kurtwell case isn't being aggressively investigated.
Right.
And then the plane shakes.
And it's certainly the first we've heard about him having any direct connection to Kurtwell, and so it's like, well, but they're both American, high-ranking whatever, so it's not impossible they would have crossed paths at some point. So that's a plot twist, or an element that hadn't really come up much lately. Once they packed Gutierrez off, but apparently now that's going to be a big thing for these last couple episodes.
I feel as though in another show that would pop up in episode 3, and then that would be the arc for the entire.
Sure,
rest of the season.
yeah. But this show has so many fish to fry. Jesus brought all those fish. Anyway, what else is? There was something else about and then the whole the speech that he gives to the stadium while not being seen was.
It's a good speech.
Yeah, it was a good speech. I mean, I think it's tricky sometimes when Western filmmakers decide they're going to tell you what Africa is like. Yeah. It's a little like. But I think they don't go too crazy in this one. They seem to, I think, ride a fine line in understanding that yes, there are corrupt governments, and at the same time there are people there who genuinely are working for a better future for the continent.
I forget. Did they name a country? I know that the subtitle said Swahili, but I don't know if they said a particular country.
I don't know that they ever ID it necessarily. I'm sure they're hedging their bets. They don't want to say it's a real guy, But it's that kind of strongman leader could be one of several, that are currently reigning in Africa. But no, that's and again, that was the whole thing of the trip was like, oh, I'm gonna show my face, and then no, he didn't. And I loved the whole thing of Voyello taking the nun's cell phone, so she couldn't take pictures with him. She's like, I have donors. But
this is the first episode that wasn't really Voyello heavy.
True, yeah. Although clearly we're building the Voyello Mary flirtation.
How much credence do we give to that as like an actual thing on this show?
I don't know. Because obviously each of them would have their own sort of like machination reason for doing it. So I don't know.
But also now we know about all this like built up. Childhood sexuality about young Sister Mary,
right,
and Lenny and Andrew.
Yeah,
this was a thing they thought about often, and now he brings Sister Mary into his life again.
Yeah,
but in a more motherly respect. But who knows what really lies under the surface?
I mean, I think she's what was call me Sister Mary to him and call me Ma to Andrew, right? Yeah. I think there's always been a certain level of maternal. Feelings between the two of them, and yes, like for two pre-adolescent boys, the only woman around for miles, if they get to see a little ankle while she plays basketball, they're going to fixate on that. But I don't think he looks at her in that way now. Okay. I think it's very much still kind of a motherly thing.
We don't need another excuse for Lenny and Voyello to fight with each other. So.
Oh God, no, that's a rivalry I do not want to watch.
Triangle in the Vatican.
So 2 episodes left. This is the point where we maybe would start wrapping some things up or sort of exploding some cliffhangers for season 2, which we now know there's going to be. I don't know if they knew it when they made this. I assume we're going somewhere with the Kurtwell case. I assume we're going to find out what's happening with Voyello and Mary, if that's going to go anywhere.
Are we going to learn any more about Esther and the baby? Because apparently they left in the night, didn't say goodbye, left the picture of the Pope. Yeah, he was heard about that. Or are they just off the show now?
I think they're off the show. I think that's just going to be another thing of him being abandoned. Like that's obviously been the ongoing thing with the parents and the his orphandom. I thought that the best piece of advice Spencer ever gave him was go to Venice and bury 2 empty coffins, because that weighs on him so much. And this is just going to be another example of like, these people, who left me, because when you to skulk out like that and leave the big portrait behind, that's a dig.
Sends a message.
Yeah, it does.
Which makes me think that it was Voyello's idea.
Oh.
Because when he and Spencer are plotting together, they look out the window maybe 2 episodes ago, and he's pushing the baby carriage. And I know his weakness. It has something to do with that.
That's a good call. I think you're onto something. All right, we'll find out. We'll be back with more Young Pope next time.